IVM.
Hi everybody, just wanted to ask everyone for a quick favor. We're running a brand survey right now and would really appreciate it if you could let us know what you think about the advertising on IVM. Go to ivmpodcast.com/survey and do let us know. As part of this, we'll be selecting 10 random participants and sending them some IVM swag, so do fill out those surveys.
सदफ, आज हमारे पास CIA से कोई आए हैं।
CIA से मतलब सीधा अफगानिस्तान और अमेरिका के बीच में जो लड़ाइयाँ चल रही हैं, हम वहाँ की जंग पे कैसे खाना खाते हैं वो वाला पूछने जा रहे किसी से?
नहीं, सैडली हमें उसके बारे में कोई ज्ञान नहीं है, so we'll stick to what we know. CIA is Culinary Institute of America, and we have Chef Kavan Kuttappa from there. Kavan, happy to have you here.
Happy to
वेलकम
be here.
कवन। बट है तो देखो अमेरिका से, तो मतलब आधा अमेरिका तो हो ही गया। हम इनसे 3 years, हाँ, so we can ask him. He will 3 साल का है, हम अफगानिस्तान के बारे में पता कर सकते हैं इनसे, ऐसे ही just for fun. But it's funny for people, Archit, and for you as well, because देखो हमने अब तक 3 episodes दारू पे कर लिया है।
3 कैसे?
3 नहीं, 2 किया हमने। कितना किया? एक तो हाँ 2 किया है हमने, सॉरी। अरे बुढ़ापा आ गया है ना, उम्र हो गई है।
एक किया हमने, दूसरा कौन सा था?
इनकी बुढ़ापे आ गए भाई। हमने अल्कोहल पे एपिसोड किया है, फिर हमने शुभ्रा को बुलाया है।
Oh yeah, Indian alcohol, traditional Indian alcohol.
क्या बात कर रहे हैं चाचा?
Correct.
हरी जवानी में बुढ़ापा आ गया इनका।
अब इतना फैला हुआ बिजनेस है तो अब सारे पॉडकास्ट याद नहीं रहते।
कितने याद रखें। Anyway, तो हमने इतना दारू का एपिसोड कर लिया है, it was necessary for us to have somebody who can talk about Chakhna as well.
Absolutely. And Kavan is the perfect person for it. So just to introduce Kavan to our listeners, Kavan is an engineer turned chef. Currently a one-man ramen shop, which we'll get to later, and we'll ask him about it. He is an alumnus of the Culinary Institute of America, as we said. He has had stints at prestigious establishments like 11 Madison Park, which was rated as the best restaurant in the world. Le Bernardin, Momofuku in New York, and this is where he built a strong foundation for himself. And then he disrupted bar food in Bangalore, which we will primarily talk to him about today. So
welcome again, Kavan.
Hi, Sadaf. Hi, Archit. Glad to be here. Yeah.
दुनिया भर में तहलका मचा के आ चुके हैं। अच्छा एक रुको, पहले एक सवाल, ये क्या है ये? What is wrong with you all engineers? मतलब बता दो। ये इंजीनियर्स हर चीज करने में घुस जाते हैं।
What is wrong with all these parents that have, that should be the question, right? You think about it. Ask any engineer who's done something else. You probably say, yeah, family. I probably say the same thing too. But like, I liked it, yeah. As a kid, I used to have these like radios, small things that I used to pull apart. And then I had a soldering gun before I did my engineering, right? So I had an interest in it. And I thought, bachelor's of engineering is same situation hoga, but there you go, it's like your syllabus and this thing, it's not the same thing. And a lot of memorizing and putting it out on a sheet. I did great in the lab though, but theory not so much. So engineering is it's what I think what the system has told us. There's only so many valuable professions: engineering, doctor, lawyer, maybe architect, not even dentist. It's like so that's I think it's the Indian system of parenting that's pushing you towards high value jobs, which you can make a lot of money on.
Yeah.
Primarily, yeah. My family was
Go on, please.
My family didn't have an engineer at the point. Mm-hmm. In the family, Papa is an amazing engineer. He designed the house without a degree, nothing. He's great. He's an engineer by brain, but he had a diploma of some sort. So he's like, okay, you do engineering. Consa engineering, electronics in very high demand. You do it right now, and that's what happened. And well, here I am.
Fantastic. There's so many engineering graduates in India, like millions of them, and a lot of people dream to quit this mainstream rat race of a high-paying job right after engineering college and get into something creative. But I think most people are not able to take that plunge for good economic reasons. So, how did you decide to take the plunge into something creative like becoming a chef? Tell us about your journey from engineering to the Culinary Institute of America.
I've spoken about this so much, like, but I'll give you a different version of it because just like that. But it's the same thing essentially. I used to cook, right? I used to cook at home. My mom used to make some chicken curry. Not a big fan. मैं उसमें कुछ और डाल के कुछ fusion, little bit tadka, different. This I used to do like college time, right? But then this whole engineering thing happened, and when you're inside the system, you notice the flaws in it, like engineering, like you're doing civil, mechanical, this thing. Everybody's getting a soft. In Bangalore, so everybody's working for a software firm.
Yeah.
I did an electronics and communication, which is basically at the circuit level kind of stuff, right? And what are the job opportunities I'm getting? I'm getting another IT firm where I'm probably going to be sitting and doing some kind of service, or I'm going to be doing some kind of coding.
Mhm.
And as a person, you'll notice it. You guys have been seated for a while, right? I can't sit in one place for too long. I have to keep going. I'm a little active as a person. I can't sit in a chair. I can't do a sedentary bench, like desk job for sure. Then I got thinking third year of engineering, I can't do this. I can't do this. So let me see. Then I started looking up to what my next passion sort of was. What did I like doing all the time, which was fiddling around in the kitchen. So I'm like, okay, cool. Let me just see if I can. And thought came that I had to do this. I thought about it earlier before joining engineering that I should do a BHM with Christ, nice college, nice facilities and all that. But that never happened. So I finished my engineering, and then I told my dad, I've done what you want me to do. Now let me do what I want to do." And I tried looking for the CIA. And the CIA at that point of time, which was a great thing, they had this thing. You have to work for 6 months in a professional kitchen, even if it's just helping out. You spend that 6 months in a kitchen, you understand that this is what you want with your life, and then you apply. Yeah, it was mandatory. I don't think it is now, but it was mandatory then. So then I joined the kitchen, making some father's friends who had restaurants, somebody please let me in. I joined and I worked for a month in one restaurant, really far from home, and that didn't work out for some reason. I think it was too far. Then I joined this French restaurant in Bangalore, the only French restaurant in Bangalore. And I worked with them for a couple of months. They even said, don't go to CIA, it's a waste of money. It's an expensive course. You'll never make that money back working in the kitchen. It's all true, by the way. And I was just like, listen, I'm an engineer. If I have to sort of become something, and there was no glorification of the chefs on TV or anything. There's only Sanjeev Kapoor, and that's it. And there was no social media of sorts. This was 2010, and where chefs are like actually the profession is highlighted in any way. But I wanted to do it, and then I applied. I got through only to have my visa declined like 3 times by the US Embassy saying, "You're an engineer. You're going." I finished my engineering by the way. So I was an engineer looking to cook, and they thought it's like 100% this guy is going to go start working in some software firm as a casual meeting. I don't know what they thought, but they didn't give me a visa. And then I tried a couple more times, and then I think on the fourth try I got through finally. There was this nice man at the embassy who believed that I was actually going to go cook. And yeah, that's how I got to CIA.
Wow. On that moment, most of the, not many of the engineers, rather, I would say, whom I have met, has this particular, call it grit, call it zeal, because they push themselves. And which is what clearly from your side as well that,
There's been a couple now. I think a good friend and junior of mine from college, and I became the go-to person for engineers to talk to about moving to cooking.
Culinary. Oh.
My God, I can count like about 7, 8 people who have said, "Okay, go here, do this." Are you sure? Because right now I'm in the industry, right? I don't think it's as rosy as it looks from the outside. The बहुत बर्तन धोना है, like a dishwash kind of starting. Be careful what you wish for. All that I said. But yeah, a lot of family friends and stuff actually have gone. Um, some didn't finish what they were doing. Some finished, but a lot of people have actually moved on to this path now.
So, Kavan, you mentioned your mom cooking chicken curry and you adding stuff to it. That sounds like something that, after you tasted it, you realized, hey, this is actually good. Are there any other sort of moments or instances from your childhood that, you look back now and say, hey, I was meant to be a chef, or I could see why I have become a chef now, considering all these few things happened in my childhood?
There's this time when my cousins used to come home, right? And there's nobody at home. Like all the parents are out doing something shopping. So we are all cousins. And one of them, my older cousin, Bofu, he had one. The men in my family are always sort of drawn to the kitchen. My dad makes a mean pork chop. Like nothing else he makes. He makes that one dish. And for us, like the pork curry is quite, it's like an ancestral thing. And he makes only that one dish. It's really heavy on the vinegar. And it's really good chakhna, like for food. And he makes just that. And seeing him cook in the kitchen, I was like, oh, it's not just, we've mostly seen our moms cook in the kitchen, right? And we think it's like a thing that only women do. Like, oh no, dad's doing it, cousin's doing it. The cousins come home. We used to make these really amazing varieties of Maggi when my parents were out. We raid the fridge, whatever is there, put it in the Maggi, turn it around. 30 years later, I'm still doing the same thing, Ramen, Maggi.
So for all of you who say, I can't cook, but I can make Maggi, there is hope for you. You can go to Culinary Institute of America and then sell Maggi in the form of ramen.
So I have my friends now, my really close friends who can actually say this to me. And I was at a friend's house 2 days ago. They were all, and when I entered the room, they were like, "Dekho Maggi aaya." It's a joke for them, and I felt bad initially. I'm like, hey, what it is. I'm glad somebody's comparing ramen to Maggi because everybody knows Maggi, right? And if this is elevated Maggi, so be it.
Yeah, I know. Like we're joking around and you're being humble. The ramen is a difficult dish to make, and we were speaking earlier offline, and you were telling me how you create it alone in your pop-ups for guests without much of a sous chef. So kudos to you. Also, pandi curry, pork curry, which your dad makes, is from Coorg, is one of my favorite ways of eating. Actually, it's the favorite way of eating pork. Can't think of any better.
I don't know how, as we are a nomadic tribe, I think we've tried a bunch of things and we found this perfect thing for pork. It works. It's like how the Italians cure your pork. They make pepperoni, coppa, prosciutto, salami. They know the trick, right? I think in India, it's us. Like we know what to do with it. And but that makes a version of it very different from what my mom makes. And what my mom makes is also really good, but my dad's is a little hotcake.
So I am going to sort of bring it to a different discussion which we started with, which was about the Chakhna, right? Now, most often than not, when the chefs are getting trained or when people are getting into kitchen, basically, irrespective of training or not, they're looking at food in general. But you sort of redefined it, the food, to sort of gel with the alcohol, which to me, when sort of I think about this, I think of French cuisine, I think of Western world, where they pair up food with wine or food with different kinds of alcohol, which goes together, right? India, it is not so much, at least from my understanding. So I'm curious, how did you come up with this entire idea that, hey, listen, I'm going to change it. I'm going to make sure people are drinking and eating, enjoying the food. Because I'll tell you one of my personal sort of experience and example here. One of the cafes I was working in New Delhi, the food was really horrible there, right? Even though I tried and changed it every time, but they were like, listen, we are going to sell alcohol. Once people drink alcohol, nobody really cares. And I'm sure that is also with big fancy drinking places as well. A lot of drinking places in Delhi who are chains basically, also in Bangalore, also in Bombay. They sell on alcohol. They don't care about the food so much. They're like, "Ha, khana to side mein hai." So, what is your philosophy on that?
So here, when you mention like French cuisine and stuff, right? They have a very strong idea of cuisine, and people go out to eat. Food is the strength part, and they make their own wine, and then it's a harmonious blend of the two. When we are drinking, anything goes, right? Anything goes. The most requested item in a bar when you're drinking is peanut masala, at least in the south, right?
Right.
So you do whatever you want. You put like a lot of hard work, make a menu. People come and ask for peanut masala. Great, fine. Huh. Um, Good. So that goes. So I feel like there was more than peanut masala. Okay, they like these flavors. Let's give them that. Let's give it to them a little better. And that's the idea with which Tomato was born, because I think the owners at that point of time, they had one small menu in toy, which is called Founders Menu. So each of the founders, I think there's a Tamilian, there's a Catholic person, there's a Sindhi, and there's one. They did one food from their home. And there's regional dishes. And that menu did great at toy. Then the idea was born, why not do restaurants with this kind of a menu? There was nothing at that point of time. And then they approached me with the idea while I was working in Olive. At that point of time, I had no exposure to regional food. I never made Indian food, let alone be cool. Never made Indian food in general. I've been trained French and classically fine dining, and I was doing the whole thing. So I'm like, okay, great. It sounds like fun. And they said, we want a chef who's South Indian because you understand the palate a little better. Because we're looking at only South Indian food. My brief was to make South Indian food acceptable and cool at a pub, essentially a Bangalore pub. And that's how the idea was born. And we went, we sort of looked for what's being eaten. And you will be surprised that you need to look really at the grassroots levels to see what people are eating when they're drinking. The pickle is another thing. Chakhna, the word, it's a Hindi word. Yeah. So it makes so much sense when you think about it. In parts of Tamil Nadu and this pickle, it's called urga. Okay, you go to a local bar, you order one, they give you one plastic glass with a drink in it, and one packet of water. You bite the packet out, squeeze the water into the glass. It'll froth up and mix and all. It's very bartending-ish type. And then they will give you one small leaf or something with one pickle on it. I think that's complimentary. You don't have to pay for it. It's the cheapest way to drink. So what you do, you drink and you then Chakhna. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're like licking the pickle. Essentially that's the most basic form of Chakhna. And when you dive deeper into these small regional societies, you see so much more options than what you would see in a regular bar, right? And if these guys are drinking quite a few times a week and they're enjoying these things, why can't it be presented on a level in maybe a metropolitan city? Why not? That was the thing, and that's what we did, and the feedback was great.
Fantastic. And there are, when you think of bar food, there are sort of certain fundamental rules that are often spoken of, like it should be salty because alcohol dehydrates your mouth and you crave more salt. Or if you read about toddy shops in Kerala, they make their food very spicy, like they put extra chili in their food so that people drink more toddy and there's more income, of course, for the toddy shop. Tell us, mere mortals who Sadaf is of course Sadaf has worked behind the kitchen. I haven't, and most of our listeners haven't. So, what sort of rules do you follow as a chef while making food for like people who are half drunk and half out of their minds?
I don't think that's the first brief when creating a menu for the bar. Honestly,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
Okay. There's one legendary toddy shop called Mulla Pantal in it's on the way on the outskirts where I've been once. The food is extremely spicy. You're right, it's extremely spicy. I just think like we were discussing earlier, like these wines are paired with like food in Sepa, like a Pinot Noir is paired with a duck because that wine automatically, without even thinking, it pairs really well with. And heavier reds and Bordeaux are paired with the steak. And for example, beer, stout is paired with the chocolate cake because it goes hand in hand. Kind of alcohol we drink and the way we drink it, it pairs with why pickle? It's spicy, it's salty. It pairs with the kind of food. More than it pairs with the kind of food, it pairs with what we've sort of grown up eating and the palate of it. So while designing a bar menu, you want to have comfort food. You want to have food that you're familiar with. You want to have food that you can pick up with your two hands and eat, right? And fried, of course. And at the same time, keeping it all familiar, where you can relate to food. That was the kind of the challenge. You have a food that's familiar, but like you're presenting it in a bar format. A bar format is usually cut up into small pieces. Like I don't know if you know what a puliogre is. Puliogre is tamarind rice, right? If you go and order a puliogre in like a darshini in Bangalore, you will get it dumped on a plate. A lump of rice, all masala, and chutney on the side. We took that puliogre rice made into an arancini, which is a popular bar snack in all of US. I mean, wherever the Italian American population is present, it's a fried rice risotto ball. So we made it's a risotto made thick and then battered and fried. Very popular bar snack. You take this humble puliogre, you cook it with the risotto rice, you make it into a ball and fry it and serve it with a bunch of other things and some small condiments. It works. If you're eating puliogre, you know it's nostalgic to it. But it's like a fun, cheesy way to eat it. It just works. Yeah, fried food usually works in a bar because it soaks up the alcohol. But none of this is scientifically I don't think there's enough data to collaborate with.
For it. And I think that you could call that as an example of modern South Indian food, which interestingly we'll discuss more on after a tiny break.
Tiny break it is.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On The Longest Constitution with Priya, get a closer look at laws that protect our children from sexual abuse. Ashton Doctor joins Sadaf and Archit on Naan to talk about the mental and physical benefits of intermittent fasting. On Misconduct, Raghavi and Nisha tell us how Seema Parihar went from being a bandit to a Big Boss contestant. On The Fighting Goat, Arjun and Somesh talk to Ranjit Ravindran about how mixed martial arts as a sport got so popular in India. And on This Round is on Me with Gauri, Chef Aarti Sampath shares her experience of cooking for Prime Minister Modi when he was in the US. Do follow us on social media. We are IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you enjoyed this show or any of our shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Word of mouth is the best way to spread the word about a podcast. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors on the network this week, Ciet Cred, Bank of Baroda, Quarter, CoinSwitch, Kuber, and Intuit India. We really do appreciate the support. You are what makes this possible.
And we are back. तो आई एम श्योर ये ब्रेक में लोगों ने फटाफट जाके अपने अपने दारू निकाल लिए हैं और जो दारू नहीं पीते हैं उन्होंने अपना अपना रूह अफ़ज़ा निकाल लिया है because we are still talking about the amazing bar food with the fantastic chef Kavan. अच्छा chef, now moving on to, because you mentioned about बचपन की बचपन का प्यार. अच्छा मैंने बचपन का प्यार बोल दिया, अब वायरल हो जाएंगे, ठीक है. तो बचपन का प्यार तो ये जो बचपन का प्यार है, इट्स कमिंग तो what is your food philosophy or what is your kitchen philosophy when you're making food or when you're making people nostalgic about their food?
So if you notice, at one point of time, restaurants over the world, I think, starting with the fine dining restaurants, they were trying to create food that's not merely something that you eat on the plate and leave. It has to be an experience. What makes an experience? What creates a lasting memory? Usually something that's already pre-existing is usually nostalgia kind of situation, right? Everybody's had Parle biscuit. Somebody's come out with a Parle biscuit because And you saw a lot, in the last 6 years, you've seen a lot of this come back. You're using things that you already experienced, repackaged in a new way, which one showcases abilities, techniques, and all that. But also at the end of the day, the customer is thinking, I've never thought about it with this. I've never thought this could be done with this, right? Something as simple as butter chicken, yeah? Butter chicken being put into biryani, right? Butter chicken biryani, right? What is it?
Pizza.
Oh, yeah, pizza, yeah, right? So there's a fine line between fusion and
Confusion.
yeah, exactly. So that, yeah, but we try to stay clear of that line when we did food economics because we never wanted to do butter chicken pasta or something like that, or a South Indian anything. We wanted to keep your flavors intact, keep your rasam as a rasam. Can you showcase the rasam? Can you do something slightly different? Like when I was talking about the previous thing with the puliogre. Puliogre is still, the paste is made by hand by an old chef who's done it all before, like how he does it at home. The slight packaging and everything of it has changed. The reinterpretation of existing nostalgic food that attracts a person. But your taste has to be on point. Yeah? You don't want it to taste like something.
Sadaf, you've also cooked modern Indian food. How is your way of looking at it different or unique?
I was about to ask the same question from Kavan. So,
No, Kavan mentioned, right? So I thought we can get a distinct view from you as well.
So for me, modern Indian or modern cuisine is again similar, and for me, I always try to bring that story. So what Kavan is mentioning about, right? He experience. So खाना खाने के लिए ना, for example, you have many, like if we talk about butter chicken only, you have many restaurants which serves you butter chicken left, right, center. So you go there for just food, but then you go to other restaurants, be it Indian accent, be it Permit Room, be it Fuzzy Cafe, be it so many other cafes. They're not giving you food. I mean, of course, they're giving you food, but they're also giving you an experience, a story altogether. For me, that has always been the case, that I want to bring that stories on the plate and how to enhance. So nostalgia, I think, works really best. And for me, I think more than nostalgia, I remember this one interaction with Chef Khanna, and we were talking about food, and then he said, always stick to your roots because that's what you know the best. You can talk about the world cuisine as much as possible, but you, in a way, understand those roots a lot more better. And when I'm saying root, you could be an Indian and best in French cuisine because that is quote unquote your roots, right? So focus on that, and so that is my philosophy on modern Indian cuisine. So I mean, be it the arancini. So I think all of it's really interesting when Kavan mentioned about the puliogre arancini. I remember just a special menu that I was doing one of the restaurants, and I made the biryani arancini because
lovely.
Because I mean, Kavan coming from the puliogre land and I come from the biryani land, so we have like something which is our roots, right? We understand the flavor.
Basically, a rice dish that
correct.
Correct. Yeah, and you can do multiple variations. But yeah, essentially, I think. But yeah, it's essentially like you said, keeping your roots straight. Add a lot of kodwa could be good add to some too. And one or two things, the bandi curry, I kept it just like that. I just kept it. I don't want to do anything to it. But I also did. Like we did a spare rib, which was again the same flavor, but the ribs were braised like how a European kitchen would braise it, not hamara handi. So what am I doing? I'm doing what I've learned in these kitchens and in school abroad with these cooking methods and trying to apply them to South Indian food. So your bone, essentially, you pick up the pork rib, the rib is going to fall off the bone. But the flavors are all what my mom has been cooking for 30 years. So that, I like that. I wouldn't call it fusion, I would just call it the marriage of the good things from both cuisines, But the second this became popular, fusion became popular. And fusion is just like, I think Bombay is quite famous for it in terms of fusion. South Indian like born person, it's really difficult to see dosas being murdered with whatnot, whatnot.
cheese, and lots of cheese.
Noodles.
Noodles
Yeah,
inside dosas.
yeah. I mean, I guess like, there's a third. I've never had it, but
What What's the most weird kind of dosa have you not eaten but seen at least?
I
Like this is the end of the
this
world.
yeah, it was. I think some South Indian influencer pulled up a video saying, "Why are you doing this?" I think it was a fried rice or a noodles in a dosa, and then they covered up the noodles in the dosa, and then again they cut it up the dosa. Essentially, there's not even a long noodle or a long piece of dosa. It's just a bale of everything, I think. And I thought it'll end at tandoori momos. I mean, honestly, yeah, but it's like it's gone from beyond
Jealous,
that.
me, our producer mentioned Genie Dosa on chat, which is this. If people have been to like Mithi by College, it is basically a dosa, which is it looks like a spring roll. It has cheese in it. It has Szechuan sauce, cabbage, tomato, pav bhaji masala.
Huh.
I can go on and kill your appetite, but I don't want
That's
to.
still there. This is that 99 variety dosa. We find that even in Bangalore, where it like doesn't have to be found. Like we have iconic dosa places. I don't know.
Mm.
Sadaf, if you come into Bangalore soon, I would suggest try one or two. I don't know if you already
Which
uh,
one?
PTR you've been.
Yes.
Yes, of course. There is a Davangere Bene dosa, one more kind of dosa, but it's good at a couple of locations. We'll chat later and I can give you some. But to understand what I'm saying, you try and eat this dosa. Like, I mean, obviously play around with the food. It's not like somebody will be yelling at me for making puliogre ranchini for sure. They'll be like, what is wrong with you? It's temple food. Puliogre is temple food, by the way.
Ah,
Some kind of food is classified as temple food. When you go to a temple, the prasad, they say, no?
yeah.
In Tamil Nadu, South India, a lot of it is these rice dishes, lemon rice.
Has
It's not just prasad; it's also something that is God's return gift to you for coming to the temple. So it's sacred food, but it's also become common food right now. It's so available in all these
lovely.
restaurants and all that. Yeah.
I know that a lot of chefs like you, Kavan, and even Sadaf are doing or have done great modern Indian food. But there's so much, as you said, there's so much bastardization of that, and there's so much crap that is being sold as modern Indian. I
Mm.
often see people just giving, say, something like butter chicken in tiny plates with like maybe just they will just put the sauce. They will just like I don't know what the technical term is, but just spread the sauce just to make the plate look nice and make it Instagrammable. But it's the same butter chicken, and maybe put like cut the naan like a lavash and add it there, and then call it modern Indian. So you know because there's so much good marketing that's been done for modern Indian by really good chefs like you. So many chefs have tried to jump the bandwagon and create absolute
That
trash
happens
and
with that happens with anything. No?
everything. Correct.
Anything you do, there'll be a knockoff version of it, which
Absolutely.
might not take away from anything.
Every
Like
product, every service. Correct.
every product, everything, and that's just the way it is. And you'll be surprised that segment is also catering to a lot of people because it's India. So a lot of people are mesmerized by that. I know restaurants in Canada were doing that because they're big Indian whiskey, and the short glasses with pani puri sitting on them is everywhere. Is everywhere. Like I don't know. I don't want to delve into it too much. I don't know who I'm picking on at some point. But so this was being done a lot, right? But what occurred to me, and I'm not going to take this idea from them. It's my directors who sort of came up with the idea of permit room. I was just amazed. I was executing, and I was once I started executing, I was thinking of new ideas. But the initial idea, all the food that is being played around with, even fusion or like trying to be interpreted in a modern way, mostly was North Indian food. Like India is represented even abroad. And if you go to an Indian restaurant abroad, what are you going to get? You are going to get rotis and curry and some dal. And the other opposite end of the spectrum, which is South Indian food, is just idli vada dosa from a Saravana Bhavan. Because they've gone before and set up stalls, right? That's all you're
Correct.
going to get.
Yeah.
What about the other 100 micro cuisines, like, say, for example, Kodava, it's like a very popular cuisine. We have an entire stretch of food
Yeah.
not represented anywhere, right?
Absolutely.
And that's why we took up the thing of interpreting, thinking, and we kept it strictly. So my brief was really difficult for me, right? As a chef to come up with a menu who's not like really delved into South Indian food, but the brief is keep it South Indian. There is no paneer at committee. There was never paneer was never a thing. Not because I love paneer. I crave it, but I was not allowed to use it because we were sticking to a theme, and that worked. It worked because I don't. Now, yeah, my mom makes paneer once a week. 10 years ago, she didn't make paneer at all. It's not part of our cuisine. It's something that we've sort of taken into because it's widespread and we're exposed to it. We brought in paneer into our houses, but it's not something that we had growing up, you know. So that I think was the standout factor for this concept we came up with. That we were doing regional food with a little bit of a spunk, with a little bit of flair, and it was only from these 4 or 5 states.
So, Kavan, tell us something more about this modern South Indian food that you created at Permit Room. You mentioned there's no paneer, even though you like paneer. Tell us something more. Like, how was your process to take these dishes? And you mentioned the rice dish, but what about some other dishes? Could you give us examples of it?
Yeah. So, to give you a very basic example, like what would you eat at a restaurant that you don't know what to order? French fries, you know, standard, right? It's made with potatoes. What we realize, a big part of Kerala and South India, uh, the primary go-to starch is not potato. Potato is a starch purpose, right? Primary starch is tapioca, which is kappa, which is a healthier starch than potato. We introduced a tapioca French fry on the menu. You know, it's it's like I didn't do much. You're like, this is all ideas that's bounced off of the directors and the other chefs, you know. And we're just thinking, what can we do? What can we do? Yeah, okay, we'll do this, something as simple as just changing the vegetable that we're all used to. And yeah, the potato fries were probably ordered a little more, but the guys who like the tapioca fries, they came for that, you know, they came for that. And there's a large, yes, Sadaf.
I have never had tapioca pearls, like tapioca fries, because in North you have mostly when you want to switch potato, you switch to shakakand. That's the easiest way. Not fries, but they become like wedges, right? So sweet potato, and of course, then you can have the piri masala or whatever kind of masala you had. But this is interesting that you tied up with the tapioca.
That was one more. Thank God you brought it up. This peri-peri is the doom of life. Okay, I'll tell you why. Because this has annoyed me the most in my time working in a restaurant. I've had peri-peri at a restaurant. It's actually a good thing. It's actually a good thing. It's a need. I've had it somewhere in Dubai, and I really liked it. Okay, and I've come back, and suddenly, when I started working in a restaurant, it's a rage everywhere. Every customer wants peri-peri on everything. But what it's like, I think it's an African chili. Okay, it's an African chili based spice.
Yeah.
No peri-peri you get in India is actually that. Okay, I think Nando's sort of had a thing on peri-peri where they used to give you the chicken with varying levels of peri-peri. Right.
Yeah, 5 levels.
Yeah, 5 levels. That's where it became famous, right? And you wouldn't put peri-peri on the menu in Permit Room, of course. Okay, so that's where. instead of peri-peri fries, we started doing gunpowder. Gunpowder is in the South Indian
Lovely.
spice. Yeah. So these are the small things, like, now when you guys are like, I can see that you guys are like, oh wow, it's a great idea. We just thought, okay, let's do whatever we have at hand, and that's how it came out. It was very natural for us. We just looked around what's being served on plates or banana leaves most often. And one more thing I'd like to mention, when you go to parts of Tamil Nadu, you see these bars, you see their menus, you will be surprised kind of stuff they serve. There's one whole sort of a jungle cuisine going on around there. There's quail, cheetah, and there's rabbit, and there's quail eggs. All these alternative meats that you don't hear of on a normal day are being served in local bars in Tamil Nadu,
Wow.
in around Trichy.
Huh.
And one of our owners had an uncle who owned one of these famous iconic bars. I think I'm sure some famous, like something like Rocky and Mayur probably covered that bar
Yeah.
in Trichy. And one of the director's relatives owned that bar, so like, why not? Nobody does opals. Opals are internal organs of animals, which is the cheap, great bar snack, great Chakhna, okay, beja fry,
Yeah.
kaleja, all this kind of stuff. They're cheap, often thrown away, discarded, because in the modern day and time, everybody wants clean, beautiful cut pieces of chicken from big companies that just land at your step. And all these small things I think are neglected. And we had a bacon liver thing at some, which was I think from Genie. It's one of my favorite dishes. We had a beja that was repackaged into a wonton. So the beja fry was like they called money bag, so like comes like this inside up. And this was all I think part of what brought it together.
Mhm.
I'm still here. I just said I'm still again.
I think people should just put Podi Masala on everything. I just do it.
Exactly. Like it should be as popular as Piri-Piri, if not more.
हाँ, I know. Piri Piri, Podi Podi. Same sound.
Podi.
देखा
Eggs
ये
पे भी
है.
डालता हूँ मैं तो. Nice.
ये ज्यादा हो रहा है. ये ज्यादा हो गया. तो एक काम करते हैं. पीरी पीरी मसाला को डस्टबिन में डालते हैं, या फिर थोड़ा डस्टबिन नहीं, साइड में डालते हैं. पोड़ी पोड़ी मसाला बनाते हैं. और जिनको पोड़ी मसाला नहीं बनाने आता है, उनको हम शो नोट्स पे ना उनके लिए रेसिपी मसाला डालेंगे. यू कैन मेक पोड़ी पोड़ी एंड इंजॉय. और ब्रेक ले लें और पोड़ी मसाला बना के आए. मिलते हैं ब्रेक के बाद.
Eventually, you'll see the end of your childhood.
Get accustomed to womanhood.
Enjoy the experience of sisterhood.
Might get to wifehood
Or not. Choose motherhood.
or not. You'll learn to define your personhood.
Earn a livelihood.
Change the neighborhood.
And get rid of the falsehood that life post-academia is easy.
So join me, Ritasha,
And me, Ayushi.
on a journey from station starting point.
To station, what now?
Next station, Pudin station, and hopefully, Agla station, adulthood.
Fresh episodes out every Thursday.
आई एम श्योर अब तक तो लोगों ने अपने पोड़ी मसाले बना लिए होंगे, गन पाउडर वगैरह बना लिया होगा, और अपने जिस भी चीज़ों में डालना है डाल के बैठ जाइए, क्योंकि अब जो है हम पूछने वाले हैं कवन से एक अगला सवाल. कवन, आपका अगला सवाल है. हमें ना ऐसे मालूम चला है कि जैसे हमारे खुफिया गुप्तचरों ने बताया है दैट यू आर ब्रिंगिंग जापान टू बैंगलोर. ये कैसे कर रहे सर आप? मतलब बैंगलोर में ऐसे ठसाठस लोग भरे पड़े हैं, जापान कहाँ से घुसा रहे हो?
So from my I went to Japan in 2018, yeah, and उससे पहले न्यूयॉर्क में मैंने रामन खाया था एक बार, पहली बार.
Yeah.
2012 में. So obviously love at first sight, but it's been on the back burner. उसके बाद जब भी मैंने ट्रैवल किया wherever, like some weird city in Europe, Lisbon. Or I mean, I'm not. Lisbon's a great city. What am I eating there? I'm eating the local food, but one day I'm looking for ramen. Hey, what is this? Kashmir, Thailand, Bali, wherever I am. I'm looking for a spot for ramen. Then my body is craving it. Then I'm like, chalo, let's just go to the motherland, yeah. And then 2018, I ended up in Japan. This is very so I'm really into tattoos and stuff. So this tattoo appointment guy, this tattoo artist who booked out for years. So I booked him 2 years in advance, planned this entire trip around it, and made a lot of reservations in restaurants through Japanese concierge services that helped me get into these places. They don't take reservations from English speaking people. I did all this and I was there for 22 days. And it was a lot of eating mostly.
Wow.
But in between of all this, I managed to eat about 30 bowls or 35 bowls of ramen in 20 days.
30 bowls.
Yeah, yeah. So you are eating obviously maybe more than one bowl a day.
Yeah.
This is there's the ramen community in Japan is something that you cannot comprehend. You cannot comprehend. I have not been able to comprehend. There are ramen bloggers, there are ramen writers, there are ramen chefs. They're all celebrities. They have their own talk shows. They have their own podcast series. And there are some people who eat 1,000 bowls a year. 1,000 bowls a year. I don't know how they do it because this is very calorie rich food. I came back 8.5 kgs heavier. And
Wow.
I'm still sort of struggling to put that off. This is 3 years ago. But I don't know how they do it. But ramen is a craze. Ramen is a craze. And it's been a craze in Japan for some time now. And they have upwards of about 30,000, 40,000, upwards of 30,000, 40,000 shops in Japan alone. And I went to my count is 35 is not wow. People would have done way more than that. But this is what I could get to do. Then it became a serious obsession for me rather than just seeking it out. Then I'm coming back to India. In Bombay, I think a place or two that serves good ramen. And every time I used to go to Bombay on work, because Toit had an outlet in Bombay, I used to make it a point to eat ramen during that time. And then I think when the last lockdown hit, which is March, right? Our restaurants are all closed. I'm sitting at home. I don't know what to do. And it's funny, I didn't even have the ingredients to cook ramen. My friend had some. Her name is Chef Pallavi. She put some in some small dabbas for me, achar dabbas. Okay, here, take this 100 ml, take this 100 ml. So served me in salsa, sake and all that. And she gave it to me and I cooked my first batch of ramen, which was around a year and 13 months ago, 14 months ago, during the last lockdown. That's how it started. And the thing is with ramen, I don't know how to cook for two people. I just don't know, right? So I used to make a batch. It invariably becomes about 10, 20 liter pot or something. And it used to yield me about 10 to 12 portions, 14 portions, whatever. That I used to give away to friends. Then I realized, okay, so let me start. There's a lot of online resources and there's a lot of chefs that I've been talking to in the US and in Japan about ramen. And I took really deep-rooted interest in it. And yeah, this is just why I've ended up becoming a ramen cook, pretty much,
Lovely.
So,
And sorry, one thing I want to say is when you told me that you are a one-man ramen show, it reminded me of this television show called Midnight
Midnight
Diner.
Diner, of course.
Yeah,
Of course.
fantastic show on Netflix. If listeners haven't checked it out, please do. It's basically about a diner run by one single person, and people come in with their nostalgic stories, their life problems, and they of course eat, but there are all these stories around the food as well. So it's a fantastic show.
Yeah, Sadaf.
yeah, so I was asking if people have to now try ramen in Bangalore, they should just contact you, right?
What's it called? Tell our listeners, Kavan.
Yes.
So I've set it up. It's called Naru Noodle Bar.
Mhm.
Okay.
Awesome.
Naru, that name,
Nadia.
no, it is very interesting. I will tell you. Naru, who happens to be a word in Japanese, it's a verb. Um, a native Japanese person might not use it as a shop name. It means to grow, to attain, to achieve, you know. But I didn't keep it because that. My dad, my mom calls my dad Naru because his name is Narendra. Okay.
Oh.
So I've been hearing this word in my house every day. My mom is screaming at my dad, "Hey, Naru, Naru," and all his friends at the club call him Naru.
Huh.
So it's the one word that resonates. And I look, it sounded Japanese, so I looked it up, and I'm like, okay, this is great. So call it Naru Noodle Bar, and it's not a brick and mortar shop currently. It runs on Instagram only, and the Instagram handle is Eat Naru. It's EATNARU. And since I cook it alone, it's not something that you can click and order ready to go at any point of time. I've sort of set up a system where it's easy for me to take pre-orders only. I take pre-orders on Thursday at 6 p.m. and I send the ramen to you on Sunday. So it takes me literally 4 days to make this
Wow.
ramen. Yeah. So there's one day that goes into making the noodles. Noodles are completely handmade. And then they have to sit in the age for some time. And then there's
So is this a weekly thing? Like every week,
every week.
people can.
Yeah, I do a different ramen every week. So
Lovely.
Just FYI, people. I am going to Bangalore on Thursday. तो मैं तो Thursday को अपने लिए ramen order कर दूंगा.
What
Will be
Thursday?
delivered.
Sadaf, this episode will be heard by our listeners in 2022 also. They will think Sadaf next week is coming to Bangalore.
अरे
What Thursday?
wait, देख लेंगे ना अपने आप figure out कर लेंगे. No, so this episode is coming on Wednesday, which is the second. Sorry, Wednesday is the first, if I'm not wrong. First. And I am in Bangalore on 2nd of 2021.
are you there till Sunday though?
I am there till the next Sunday.
Okay.
बस अपना तो हिसाब लग चुका है अर्चित पूरी. आप यहाँ खाइए पूरी, हम जाएंगे वहाँ राम जी से मिलने को.
Fantastic. Acha, our final segment, which is our favorite Sadaf, we have to do that with Kavan, which is underrated, overrated.
Right.
So Kavan, tell us, since we're talking about bar food, we'll do it about bar food. A, what are your favorite bar foods? B, what are some underrated bar foods? C, what are some overrated bar foods? On
And
to you.
just to add to that, overrated bar food cannot be the chana and masala papad.
Yeah, that's a boring one.
Apart from these two.
Overrated food can't be chana and
Masala
masala.
Masala
Okay.
chana and masala papad can't be.
And peanuts,
Okay.
or peanuts. Yeah.
हाँ वही
Oh,
वही.
okay. Yeah. Done. So what do you want me to go with first? What?
You can tell us
Your
your favorite first.
Your favorite bar food.
But it's boring, yeah. But it is my favorite. Okay, it is my favorite. Chicken wings. Okay. It's my favorite bar food. It's because it involves your hands and it's like dipping. Little bit you have biting action. You know, I like it. You know, it gets use of your hands. That's I think my go-to. But many people put it on the menu just for the sake of it. Like there's not enough love. But if there's a place that does great things in there, that'd be amazing.
Do you make a South Indian version of it?
Yes. We have at Permit Room. We have a gongura filled chicken. So we take out the bones, we make it boneless, and just the winglet, we stuff in a gongura chili in it, and it's grilled, not even fried. So there's a gongura paste in it, tangy, spicy, and juicy. Like it's great. So that was our version of it. But chicken wings, yeah, and I would just like a good buffalo wings with some blue cheese. Like that's my go-to, and it's not difficult to make.
And the underrated food.
Underrated, I would have to say from this whole conversation, I don't think this is an easy answer. I think South Indian bar food is very underrated. What I was telling you in terms of all these liver fry, your brain fry, and I'm sure it's there up north also. But I think all these opens, like all these beja khalija masalas, very underrated, very good, very tasty. If made right, yeah.
And the overrated,
This is the
most controversial one.
Yeah. I think overrated bar food would be cheese balls. I fucking hate them. It's nasty. It's like a fried dough with like things. Like any sort of a cheese ball you take, I think needs to cease to exist. I think it's overrated.
Love your choice.
Yeah,
I think we all agree with cheese balls. It's just a horrible. It's just a horrible thing. It should. And here's the funny thing. Not okay. This is a chef thing. So Kavan and I, of course, know about it. Archit, you will know now, and a lot of people other will also know. Not many restaurants actually make their own cheese balls. Everything's outsourced. So just get it, they fry it, and they just serve it.
Yeah, it must come from some McCain or something.
Exactly.
But I tell you what, if I were to do a cheese ball, okay, if somebody was to force me to do a cheese ball, I'll make a nice cheese ball, Nobody's putting good cheese in these things. It's all processed. It's no flavor. It's all artificial. And it's essentially a dough ball with a little bit of Amul cheese in it, Yeah. I mean, could somebody do like a cheddar and blue cheese ball? Wow, okay, maybe with some arugula salad on the side. I don't know, sounds good, right? No, nobody's going to do that. They will still go with what's easiest, like the easiest solution.
Like, personally, I think I would not like to fry any fancy cheese. I think it will just kill the cheese. You sada cheese, like processed cheese is good for fry.
But some cheeses are good melted, right? Like all these raclette and all these cheeses. Like you see a 4-cheese pizza, all the 4 cheeses are melted and they're really good. Imagine that into say a ball. Might still work, but I know what we were speaking about in terms of what we grew up eating as cheese balls is quite nasty. And it's very overrated, I think.
It's just horrible.
There's it's a very rare occasion that Sadaf and I and the guest agree on the underrated, overrated favorite part. So,
really? Okay.
So this is a lovely note. On this amicable note, we can end today's show. Thanks a lot, Kavan, for coming over. And where can we find you on Instagram and Twitter?
So they're both quite similar. Instagram is at KAVANN.
Mm-hmm.
And at Twitter, it's triple N. So it's KAVANN on Twitter. I'm not very active on Twitter, but Instagram I'm quite active. It's KAVANN.
And if you did not, if people did not catch that, of course, you will also find the detail in the show notes. So go and order your ramen, please. And on that note, you go order the ramen. हम करते हैं अपनी दुकान बंद, आप जाएं इनकी दुकान पर.
If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network.
You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com.
You can also follow us on our social media. We are @IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram.
And if you want to reach out to me on Twitter, I am Hussain Sadaf1, and on Instagram, I am Sadaf_Hussain. You can reach out to Archit
on Twitter @BanTofu and on Instagram @TheHustlingGlutton.
Do you wonder why China does the things that it does? Or want to know how we could improve online privacy? Or perhaps you're thinking about how we can kickstart India's economy. If you'd like to search for the answers to such questions, check out All Things Policy, a daily public policy podcast that covers everything from employment figures to aircraft carriers. Tune in from Monday to Friday for new episodes and fresh takes.
Have you ever wondered where the business world is headed? How the ways in which we create, market, and sell to consumers will evolve? Or if we'll ever go back to wearing pants while working? For answers to all of this and more, tune into Advertising is Dead with me, Varun Dugirala. Every Tuesday, as I talk to entrepreneurs, leaders, and change makers from across business, media, marketing, and beyond. You can catch all episodes of Advertising is Dead on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcast from.